Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. Tonight with session number 19 of our Momentum D&D 5e campaign titled Whispers and Fragments. Tonight's episode is titled Hope is a Rare Coin. This game has been awesome so far. The way that these characters have developed through this tale and the connections that they established kind of with one another and early on with the world itself has been it's been amazing to kind of watch all of that bear fruit throughout this campaign, and I cannot wait to start seeing the culmination of a lot of those little loose ends. So yeah, I think before we get started, I'm going to pass things over to my players. They can do introductions, plug whatever they would like, and then we can get started. Before I do that, because some of these people have a little bit of a blue mouth, Jake. No. This is an adult channel. These are all adults. I have signed permission slips from their parents if they're not. And yeah, the language and the subject matter is more than likely going to be mature, especially tonight. If that kind of thing bothers you, don't watch any of my games. Ever. So I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to them. They can say hi and that kind of stuff, and then we'll get started. So speaking of the foul-mouth himself, Jacob.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, Jeremy. Yeah. I'm the least blue person here. No, I am Jake, known as Mini Terrain Domain around the internet. You can find me on Twitch running regular D&D games, especially now that the fall time is here. There'll be even more games showing up there, along with having other people from the community. I won't steal their thunder. I'll let somebody else tell you what's going on other nights there. But you tune in tomorrow night, tune in on Thursday nights, and you can see Jeremy playing a foul-mouthed dwarf on the Dawnbringers, our Dawnbringers campaign over there. And I am playing Ingvaraad, a dwarven, a dwarf from hell, who is sort of the teenager of the group and who has undergone a pretty drastic transformation of late.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, foul mouth. I've never cursed in my life, especially not while playing Talmud.
Oh, shit. Sorry, something in my throat.
All right, next up we have Austin.
Hello, I'm Austin. I never swear at all either. I'll be playing Bastaarad. He is equally saintly, or he's also a little bit more like a drunk uncle, but like the angry kind, not like the kind of funny one. Anyway, I don't really have a lot to say because I don't have a channel or any of that stuff. That stuff. Not shit. I don't say shit. So I'll pass it along back to Jeremy. I'm excited to get back into this.
Yes, sir. I'm very excited. Again, I think there's going to be some fun stuff tonight for Bastaarad, and I'm excited to see what you all do with that. All right, next up we have Tim.
Hey, everybody. I am Tim. I am 1/3, the least third of Tabletop Terrors. And also, I wrote and directed Bill and Ted Face the Music. No, I didn't, but I enjoyed it a lot, and you should go watch it. I'll plug that, support that. Jeff and I and a lot of other really talented people wrote a campaign setting guide called The Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, and we just released that on Drive-Thru RPG. And so if that is the place where you prefer to buy your RPG products, it is now available. And there's a ton of stuff in that book that you will love. And so that would be the thing that I would plug. And if you like D&D videos or just game design videos that are about fun and creativity, then check out Tabletop Terrors on YouTube.
It's a bit on the lean side as far as campaign books go, though.
Yep, we couldn't quite break 500 pages. The shipping costs as much as the book. No,
But you get the bullet points at least.
It is an awesome book. It is an awesome book. But it's even more awesome if you know Tim and you can say, hey, Tim, is there a part of the book where I should go to find...
And I'll throw that invitation out there until it becomes overwhelming. I am happy to do that. I openly invite anyone who has questions. Hey, Tim, I'm looking for X, Y, or Z, and I would happily chat about that all day.
I'm very gun shy because of the state of the index in the D&D 5e Player's Handbook and how confusing that thing is. So I've almost forgotten that indexes even exist. But yeah, man, I'm happy to hear that Bill and Ted is a good movie. I'm a huge fan of the original, so I was really looking forward to this and hoping that it wasn't just an absolute dumpster fire. So, okay, next up we have Alan.
Hey everybody, name's Alan, and you can find me on all the different social media platforms at CFTRPG. And on Fridays, you can find me over on Jake's Mitita channel on Twitch, where I run Curse of Strahd, and we are coming up on session 43. And we had a really amazing session last Friday, touched on a couple of character story arcs, and you can catch all the VOD over on the CFTRPG YouTube channel if you want to catch up with that. But you can always just join us in the chat. We'd love to have you there. And on alternate Wednesdays, you can find me on my own Twitch channel where I'm running a Savage Worlds Ravenloft adaptation. We just kicked that off, and we're having a blast running that. Pulp action with a gothic horror twist to it. And then on Tuesdays, you can find me over on Cappy the Gamer's Twitch channel playing some Pathfinder 2e. So lots of different games. I'm everywhere at the moment, but you can always find me on Twitter. Outside of that, I am playing Haroon, a Oath of Redemption paladin here in Momentum, an elf of the Kaladari who has joined this party to kind of fulfill an oath that he made so long ago. And we had this come up in the last session. We found out that several people in our party had a connection that we weren't even aware of. So I'm excited to get back in this game. And as always, I am willing, so willing to turn it over to Jeremy, as he is an awesome game master. And if you haven't already sub, we're almost there. We're almost 400 subs on the YouTube channel for Erasmus. So if this is your first time tuning in, you won't be sorry. Hit that subscribe.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. So are you actually running concurrent Curse of Strahd games in two different systems?
I am. I like Ravenloft that much.
Yeah. Ravenloft's an awesome setting. It's really good. It's probably one of my favorite official D&D settings. I like it a lot. Awesome. So yeah, anybody who's mentioning a channel, by the way, you should be able to find that in the description of the video down below. Do please go check them out. Click their links, like their stuff, send them love letters. They're fantastic people. Speaking of fantastic people and love letters, go ahead, Austin.
I just want to jump back in real quick because Alan's backslappery reminded me that I very recently played one of the greatest games I've ever played in, and you should go check out Jeremy's channel for his Halo one-shot from AtConline, because that was one of the coolest goddamn things I have ever experienced. Like, great game. So go check that out. Watch that. If you like Halo, if you like Mecha Hack, any of that stuff, go for it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a re-envisioning of Oath of the Frozen King, which is also by Aptab. This guy was involved. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like we talked about with Jake before the stream went live, we're going to be running a sequel to that at the end of October, or sometime around Halloween-ish, and it's going to be a reworking of Shadows over Drift Chapel, which is the other adventure kit that they have put out. So I'm very excited about that, getting a little bit of spooky Halo action going on. All right, I can't segue spooky Halo action as smoothly, Jeff. So I'm sorry, but you get. Speaking of spooky Halo action, Jeff.
The 3 words that best describe my life. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but it seemed fitting to say. Yes, I'm Jeff. I am also a third of Tabletop Terrors, a different third than Tim is, actually, but we are both thirds. So yeah, check out our videos over there if you're so inclined. Check out a DMG, which I have gotten to help write as well. As Tim mentioned, all those, basically everything Tim said, just like put my name on that too, and you'll probably be good. Yeah, I'm playing Darian, a rogue running from his past of drugs and debauchery, trying to redeem himself, now marked by that past, which is now coming to claim him. So he's trying to use the last of his goodwill and energy to try to do some good in the world before he is returned to whatever hellscape he's going to be returned to when that mark catches up with him. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
Me too. Me too. Excited about so much about this game. All right. So, unless there's any further ados, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Play some D&D. There are those who view forgiveness as a weakness, who allow transgressions to go unanswered or unpunished. But when a wrong carried out against us wounds deeply, lashing out in revenge is the easy course. It takes more strength, more resolve, more awareness to forgive. And that is not a weakness. However, there are those who will forever take advantage of people's forgiveness. They hide behind the compassion and empathy of their better fellows, and use this shield to continue along their path of wickedness and transgression. There comes a point when such a pattern of behavior must be broken. In that moment, guilt and punishment must be carefully weighed, and justice must be dispensed. It was not unusual in recent decades for the long night to last 2 months, but it has now been just over 3 since you have last seen the light of the sun. The fears and concerns of the people appeared to have been founded, and now you too, perhaps, were beginning to doubt the return of Belorion's light to the sky. Even more so now, perhaps for Bastaarad, maybe Haroon as well, to have returned to this place, this familiar place, the Hand of Taarlok Valley, particularly the village of Taarlok. Or Akun, the village of Akun. Taarlok is where Bastaarad is from, which is a nearby neighboring village. And you have learned that both of these villages have had to combine because their people and their resources have dwindled so. Furthermore, the high priest, Harast, had entered into a meditative state, trance, and no one was able to wake him for some time. The same Harast that you have evidence of having had some questionable dealings with the Throes of Sunset cult. You found where Harast was, and through no small effort of your groups, you managed to rouse him from this trance, where he immediately turned and collapsed into Bastaarad's arms, and looking at Bastaarad says, I have done terrible things. Bastaarad, what are you doing?
Bastaarad is holding him, but he's holding him like you would hold something that like a slimy eel or something. Like he's disgusted. He's looking down, and he just says, "How did you allow this to happen?"
I can no longer fight it. Bastaarad, what is going on? What's going on? Where are we?
We are in a coon.
You can
Taarlok is
visibly,
gone.
you can visibly watch the shame kind of dawn upon his face when he realizes that you're literally inside the skull of a coon. Take me from this place, please. You can see he's very, very weak and emaciated.
Bastaarad sighs heavily before picking him up fairly tenderly, despite whatever he's done before. This man taught Bastaarad almost everything that he knows about everything. Whether or not he's grown to, disbelieve some of it, it was this man that was almost like a father to him. So he'll carry him very tenderly back towards the village.
And as you do so, Karasan, the other priest who has come to kind of fill this Bonekin's position, the one from the village of Taarlok that is no longer, he is moving along beside you, and he's shaking his head. He must be arrested. He has to stand for the things that he's done.
We have to find out how this happened. The punishment can wait. Look at him. He may not live much longer.
But if he dies without answering for what he has done, the people... And he kind of looks around, and everybody is kind of taken aback. All of the villagers are kind of standing far away and have their their hands over their mouths, and they're clutching one another. This is an unusual thing for Bonekin society, to see a high priest like this. He grabs a hold of your shoulder, Bastaarad, and he says, "Take him to the temple. I have to go to Chiefess Ashatamsar and tell her what has happened. She will want to hold an Ashandari." Bastaarad, you would know an Ashandari is like a witan or a moot, a gathering of the people to discuss something legal. A justice is going to take place.
And Bastaarad will just nod to that and turn towards the temple. He won't say anything. He'll just agree silently.
So, as Bastaarad carries this kind of frail high priest back to the temple, what are the rest of you doing?
I think Sabanos would probably strike up a conversation with Darian, unrelated to the matters at hand, but intrigued with something else. And I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe Jeff, it would be, because I know Darian and Sabanos have some sort of history. And so maybe it would be something from our past that this reminds me of. I don't know if you have any ideas on that, but I basically would probably bring up something that is highly inappropriate, not because it's wrong, bad, or a bad situation that happened, but because it's in the middle of this dire, like very sovereign moment. And I probably start speaking loudly. Do you have any ideas on maybe what it would be?
Let's see. I know when we knew each other before, it was during much rougher periods for both of us. So it could even be something like the fact that this person is so like emaciated and thin. Like it just like reminds you of someone struggling from back when we were, just trying to scrape by and bad times or whatever.
I love it. And I start telling this story. I'd be like, do you recall? And I would call him like some sort of strange name, like, I'd call him like Dense Howard or some sort of strange nickname that I had for this person that was probably also an insult. So I'd say, do you recall Dense Howard? Do you remember how he was so much like this? In fact, this reminds me quite of when he, and I'm talking about like when he basically essentially overdosed, but made it and survived. And it's just this like terrible story of how he pissed himself. And to me, I'm just talking about it like we're just standing in a courtyard chatting, totally oblivious.
Yeah, hearing like the story from the past. When you first like say the name, I think Darian will have that like moment where he's like trying to like remember what stupid nickname of yours goes to like what actual person, and like have to like stop and think as like the roulette wheel turns in his head before to like settle on like, oh, and just like nod. Remembering. And as you start to bring up the past, I think he'll like subconsciously like scratch at his sleeve, which is like covering this mark that's now sprouted there, as he like can't help be reminded of that as well. But he'll just nod along. Yep. Seems no matter how much the world changes, wherever we go, we always seem to find people like this.
What's he high on? Seems wonderful. You see my mind begin to wander and sort of look at that enormous place we just were, and like you see the wheels turning. Maybe Bastaarad would even notice. I don't know how distracted you are with everything that's going on, but
yeah, I think Bastaarad's probably like he's looking around for Haroon, and he's kind of paying you to know, like the two humans, almost no attention at this point. He's actually probably looking for Katvarad as well, like trying to get their attention as he's carrying this, like, just nodding along, like as if to say, like, I need your help.
I imagine sort of tagging along at your elbow, a mixture of pride at having been the one to sort of use my abilities to break through whatever this was, but also a little bit like looking around because now he's in a lot of trouble, and it seems like that's also my fault. So just seeing the state he's in, I would try to say to you, Bastaarad, quietly enough that maybe only you can hear, should I try to heal him? He's pretty bad off.
Yes, but let's wait till we get him to the temple. Let's get him comfortable first. But you did great. He does kind of pause for just a moment and look down at her carrying this thing. You did great today. You really, he'd still be in that skull if it weren't for you. So thank you. And it'll just keep moving without waiting for any response.
And I think I would falter at the praise, and lose a good 4 or 5 steps before suddenly, probably I imagine as Sabanos' voice sort of catches up, hearing whatever nonsense it is he's talking about, realizing they're about to trample over me, and just snap out of it and run back up and just follow alongside you until we get to the temple.
Is there nothing inside this skull outside of Karast and us?
So this exists kind of just on the outskirts of the village. I would say probably within 100 yards of the edge of the village.
But I mean, as far as when we found him, that it was just him, nothing
Yes.
else.
I mean, it was the corpse of a coon, but he was the only thing in the skull, aside from what offerings and things would have been placed here.
To see Karast in such a state, removed so far from the teachings that he had taught. Something very terrible must have happened here. I think that it is good that Ingvaraad was not here to see her mentor in such a state. But if it is this bad, if the cult throes of sunset were able to break the will of one so strong, then I fear the worst for the days ahead.
I don't know how they could have gotten to him. He was always so wise.
You managed to come back to the temple, Bastaarad, and are able to find where Karast's chambers to be here, and you're able to make your way in there and lay him in his bed. Although the room is clean, it looks like it hasn't been used in a little while, and you're able to get him situated. He is kind of in and out of consciousness at the moment, but his breathing has become more regular, and he seems to be a little calmer. But the times when he's awake, he's sullen, weeping openly at points, and inconsolable. It dawns on you that you still have yet to visit Varsharand, the father of Ingvaraad and Dothkari, your father-in-law at one point. And he has no knowledge yet of what has befallen Dothkari or Ingvaraad at this point.
Yeah, so seeing as it might take some time for Karast to regain some composure, um, Bastrad will turn to Catharad. This There's something difficult that I need to do, and as someone who was very close to Ingvarad, um, actually, Haroon's there with us as well, so I guess I'll speak to both of them. Like as people that cared for her and knew her well, I would invite you to come with me to speak to her father. We need to inform him of what has happened to his daughter. You are under no obligation to come with me for this, Katvarad. I understand if it might be difficult to tell him, because I do intend to tell him exactly everything that happened. But you are both welcome to come with me if you would so desire. It will not be an easy conversation, and I will also have to inform him about Dothkari, because I do not believe he knows yet of her fate.
I don't want to go, but I will.
Right, it will be some time, I think, before he looks down at Karast's like semi-conscious weeping body until he has regained enough of himself to be of use to us or anyone. We should go now. Sorry, what?
I can try to help him before we go.
I think that would be good. We should still allow him time to rest before we speak with him.
And I'll just walk over to this weak priest and hesitantly reach out and not really sure. Like I go to like touch his shoulder and then it seems almost too intimate. And I start to like pull my hand back and it's like I don't know how to do this. This is something new, and the only thing I can think to do is see a little bit of this dust from when he was inside the skull that's probably on his forehead from when he collapsed, and just reach up and brush that away. And in doing so, there'll be a quick transfer. For a moment, my hand will glow with light, that sort of liquid smoke that almost glows, and it will just seep into his pores. And because I can only do it at one level, I'm dumping a 5th level cure wounds into this priest. So that's going to be, let's see, 33 points of healing. And I imagine, because this is so new and it's a minimal point of contact, I imagine this healing energy sort of seeping into his pores. And at that point, I just let it go. But I sort of know that this magic has to work its way into his body and find find the damage. However that may be, whether it's physical damage, psychic damage. So it may take time. And I imagine there being a little bit of a tenuous connection, even though I'm not physically touching him anymore.
And you watch as, almost like almost like one of those like rare flowers that only blooms during like a full moon or something. Like very, very slowly, he kind of relaxes and kind of comes out of a fetal position and grows more comfortable in the bed that he's laying in and becomes very still and peaceful, but still sleeping. Okay, so it sounds like Bastaarad and Katvarad are both going. Haroon, did you take up Bastaarad on his offer, or Sabanos or Darian, or either one of you wanting to go along?
Well, I think seeing how Karas was also a mentor to Haroon, that he would want to stay by his side and find out what happened. So I'd probably follow Bastaarad and Katvarad in that sense.
I feel like I would take a cue socially, just sort of look, not knowing what to do, like kind of being like, oh, I don't care about what's happening. Looking to Darian for a social cue of like, are we close enough yet where I just can go without asking? Or by proxy, can I go because you're close enough? Or do we stay here and kind of give them their space? I don't know what to do. And I'm looking to Darian.
Yeah, I think Darian kind of sensing that eye from Sabanos will look over to Bastaarad. Just say, we can wait here and watch over him while he sleeps. Make sure nothing happens.
Thank you. I have a feeling Karazhan may be back with some angry people, so it would be good if there was someone here to talk some sense into them.
I'm not sure if I'm the best one for that job, but I can certainly do my best.
Well, at the very least, this one can talk circles around them until they're so confused they don't remember why they came. He'll just kind of gesture to Sabanos.
We'll keep them so wrapped up that by the time that they realize what they came here for, you guys will be back anyways.
Thank you, Darian. And you might notice, like, this is just a much more like somber and subdued Bastaarad. He's not being at all as animated as he might normally, but he just kind of quietly nods and turns to start heading towards where he knows that Dethkari and Ingvaraad's father lives.
Yeah, Darian will just like take a seat next to this sleeping person now that this healing magic has sort of brought them to a more peaceful state. Just like sit with his legs crossed and his kind of arms around his knees, sort of keeping guard. Assuming that once Bastaarad and the others leave, that Sabanos will begin talking his ear off about who knows what, and like take the very, very brief moment of peace to enjoy the quiet of it.
Yeah, and as Bastaarad is describing that this chiefess may return with angry people, and then you know the interaction it's just had almost to himself, but both of you could hear it. Sabanos says, "Oh, this is very much reminding me of how I got tied to that post on the dock. Very, very similar start."
Fantastic. Bastaarad, you lead Haroon and Katvarad kind of through the town of Akun. And again, Akun is not a small town necessarily, but it is, oops, that's the wrong Akun. The thingy. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Very much nestled in the shadows of the forest, with these trees that are so old and so large that even the lowest branches tower over the tallest buildings, of which there are many in the town of Akun. These great longhouses where generations of families often occupy the same building. And you know that the longhouse, the hall that is owned by Vasharand, is kind of at the very edge of the village. He is, well, like Ingvaraad, standoffish at times. He can be a hard man to get along with. But he's fair, and he listens probably about as often as he yells. So, I imagine it's, at least as you're nearing his longhouse, there's probably a quiet preparation that Bastaarad kind of falls into, kind of getting himself ready for this conversation with this particular bonekin. And you arrive mounting the steps, and several people are kind of doing various tasks, weaving baskets, cleaning laundry, that kind of thing outside. And they watch you approach, and every single one of them stops what they're doing and pays very close attention to you approaching. By the time that you reach the front door, and your eyes kind of adjust from being kind of out in the dim shadows to the warmly lit interior of the home, and you go through the ritual of disarming yourself, things of that nature. By the time that you get to that point and pause, you can see the figure of your father-in-law approaching you. The kind of regal clothing that he wears, in comparison to a lot of the rest of the bonekin at least, is without a stain. It's crisp and clean and pressed. And he almost kind of glides towards you with his hands folded kind of in a steeple across his sternum. Bastaarad?
Bastaarad, I bring peace to your home. And he'll touch his horn, give a sort of a customary greeting of peers. Like he's very consciously doing a non-subservient greeting.
He kind of returns, but you can tell that the shock and surprise is kind of interrupting the formality of what would normally be a very formal greeting. I don't understand. What are you doing here?
May we speak to you inside?
Of course, please. He kind of eyes your company, and then waits for you to, again, remove your weapons, announce your peaceful intention coming into his home. Or at least I know Bastaarad likely does this because this is a typical way to enter a bonekin residence. Do Katvirad and Haroon, do they follow suit?
Knowing the bonekin customs, I believe Haroon would. Yes.
I would kind of be a little late figuring out what's going on, and would remove my simple dagger belt, the only physical weapon that I actually carry on me.
Yeah, Bastaarad actually didn't even. He left most of his weapons in the Karazhan's box at his home, so traveled through the town unarmed.
You enter the longhouse and are taken into kind of an audience chamber, a place to speak. There's comfortable furniture that you can kind of lounge into. It's got cushions that are stuffed with probably karatar hair, so similar to like a horsehair pillow. So it's comfortable to lay on, and refreshments are brought, and you can see that he's going through the motions of being cordial and treating you as his guests, but you can see that he is fiercely curious about what has brought you here and why there's just the three of you, likely why Ingvaraad is not with you. Once all of you kind of are served whatever refreshments you would wish to partake in, he dismisses the people who are kind of helping or aren't engaged directly in the conversation kind of from the room, before he turns to you and says, "Where is Ingvaraad, Bastaarad?"
You're a perceptive man, I know this. The answer is not simple, but the truth is, I don't rightly know. But there is more to the story than that. Please sit. And I understand you may have questions, but please wait. Let me tell you what we've gone through and what may have befallen your daughter. I am sorry that we come bearing such tragic news. Dathkari, she is lost, truly.
Dathkari was... she was already lost.
Yes, I know this, but I found her in my travels, and you would probably rather not know the specifics, if I'm being honest.
You hunted down a broken on purpose?
No. Coincidence. I was in the wrong place at the right time.
So then she is truly dead.
Yes. No more torment.
He kind of reaches down and like straightens his doublet. Good. Good. I'm glad of this.
And then, because I don't really want to launch into an hour-long story, I want to tell him basically everything that happened.
Sure. Okay.
And like everything important that Ingvaraad had something to do with, because I really want to and Bastard's building up this like your daughter was a hero who sacrificed herself to save all of us and to save Katbarad. We have not given up on her. We will continue to search. We are headed down under.
He's been kind of circling the drain, so to speak, like as you've been going on telling this tale of what has befallen Ingvaraad. And when you mention this last part, it breaks him out of his spiral for just a moment, and he looks up, and for the first moment you see something different on his face, this kind of confusion instead of this concern. And he says, "You're going into the down under. Bastaarad, You've always been a foolish man at times, but This is... He almost looks to the other two as if, like, hoping one of you might be sane.
This is the only way the long night ends. This is the only way that we can save what's left of this dying world. This may not even be enough. Maybe the long night continues, but at least it will continue. After what I've seen, after what I've heard, I know there are people out there who are longing to bring this world to an end, and I will not let that happen. Not while Ingvarad's still out there, not while there's some hope that she might come back. There is still hope. And so I will go wherever I have to. We're going to hell, sure. We have to. There's no option.
What of Vidaris, Bastaarad? She has already lost her mother, now an aunt. She is to lose her father, too.
But she will live. If I don't do this, she has no hope of a life at all. Right now, she's safe. She's protected. She's learning.
In an elven city, miles and miles from here. And I knew allowing Ingvaraad to leave was a mistake. Should have. I should have insisted. Should have told her to stay.
It doesn't matter what you told her. She would have done what she wanted to do. You know your daughter as well as anyone.
This is true. Yes. They're gone. Bastaarad. My daughters are both gone. Vidaris is the last of my kin. Because you are the girl's father. There's a certain fondness that I have for you. I would not go so far as to say that you are my son. But I'd like to think that it is close. If you must do this, Bastaarad, then I reluctantly give you my blessing.
I think you may be mistaken. I've always respected you, and I've respected your opinion even when I've disagreed with you. But I didn't come here seeking your blessing. I came here to tell you what happened to your daughters, and to ask a favor of you. I'm going regardless of your blessing. I've written a letter for Vidaris. I ask that if something should happen to me and she should return here, that you give it to her, and her alone, to read.
He takes kind of a moment, kind of chewing his open mouth for a second. You can see his jaw kind of working on the side. And he nods. These kind of large curved gray horns that he has that kind of sleek backwards, almost like his hair. And he will extend his hand towards you, palm up, in acceptance of the letter.
Yeah, Bastaarad will pull it out of his kind of tunic and hand it to him.
You may not wish for my blessing, Bastaarad, and that is fine. Be careful.
I will. I don't want to see Vidaris an orphan any more than you do.
If you'll excuse me. He kind of stands and kind of gives a very curt departing kind of bow to you, Harun and Katvarad, before he then turns and kind of glides his way out of the room.
Bastaarad kind of gives himself a little shake. Like, we should go. We should go back. They may have completed their judgment.
I know that could not have been easy for you. But you did what was right. I am glad that I was here and that you were the one to tell him.
I appreciate both of you coming. I think we owe honesty to those who are important to us, and so I owed it to Dothkari and to Ingvaraad to honor their memories with truth. He's a strong man. He'll be able to get over it eventually and move on. But he just kind of shakes his head. You're right. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
Vidaris, I know that your daughter, you may worry for her, which is natural. But if it's any assurance, I can assure you that she is in good hands. And being that she is as far away as she could possibly be from where we're going, I think it's all the better.
I only wish I could have told her before I left.
She knows. She knows. And though, looking at Caprod, although Ingvaraad, I know that she saw you as a daughter. She would be proud.
You would see that Katvarad, having climbed up into one of these sort of almost recumbent seats with these big fluffy pillows, being a dwarf, had sort of sunken in a little bit, legs, not even able to hang over the edge. And while Bastaarad was discussing and describing the circumstances of Ingvaraad's disappearance, I would have sunk in almost intentionally, trying to hide almost. So as you say this, there's this moment where I'm just sort of doing this, trying to pull myself up out of this sunk in thing and get my legs to where I can actually get down from this couch and look at you, Haroon, and kind of look over to where he left the room, and just kind of lowly, just low enough for Haroon and Bastaarad to hear. Would that make him my grandfather? Ish.
Reluctant adoptive grandfather?
And she would just kind of shrug, and go over to retrieve her dagger belt, pausing momentarily to look at you like, we are leaving, right?
Yes. Yes. Let's go.
As the three of you make ready to leave the longhouse of Vasharand and make your way back across the village to the temple, at the temple, Sabanos and Darian, you have been kind of at the bedside or around, and the acolyte who works at this temple, his name is Targadon. He's kind of a younger bonekin, but he's been hovering since you got here, Darian. And occasionally you catch him giving you kind of a sideways glance. And in a moment that's kind of quiet after the rest have left and you and Sabanos are around, he finally approaches you. I remember you, you know?
Aaron will kind of like look at Sabanos for a second, like expecting him to be like, "Oh, you," and then like down at the person sleeping, and then like realizing that he's talking to him. We'll kind of try to think for a moment, and he'll like look this person up and down, and try to see if there's anything in his memory that would say the same.
Probably. Because you actually spent some time at this very temple a long time ago. And he was much younger then, much like you were. But you're pretty sure that he was around then. He probably was not an acolyte yet. You, he kind of looks at Sabanos to not say this loud enough that he might hear it. You took something from this temple.
Yeah, that like trying to remember who this person is will like be soured by the comment as he remembers, like not recognizing him probably from the difference in age. I don't just nod. I did.
I spoke with Bastaarad already, but he gave me nothing more than a cryptic answer. You traveled with him whenever Ingvaraad was also traveling with him, yes?
I don't know about whenever she was traveling with him, but definitely for a long time.
What happened to her? Where is she? Is she safe?
Darian will kind of think for a moment. What has Bastaarad already told you?
Said that he was uncertain where she was, but he was very... he was dodging the question, it seemed. I need to know.
It is, technically speaking, accurate to say that we don't know where she is.
He kind of exhales, like, frustrated. She simply walked away. She... How did you lose her?
We didn't lose her. She left.
He seems very shocked by this answer. She left. Did Bastaarad say something to her? Did he make her angry?
It was not Bastaarad's fault. He had nothing to do with it. Kind of like try to get a measure of this person as he looks and like look him in the eyes, almost like silently prompting like that, are you sure you want to know the truth sort of look, and kind of see just by looking at him kind of what it looks like this person's fortitude might be.
Roll me an insight.
Oh yeah, do that. That is a 15 on the die. Right. 0, so 15.
Okay. The Bonekin are not a stoic people necessarily, but they're a lot less given to like raw emotion, especially compared to humans, and you can tell that Ingvaraad definitely means something to him, and not knowing is causing him a great amount of pain.
Darian will slowly stand up from like this like cross-legged like casual seated position that he's been in, so that he can like stand more toe to toe with this person. And I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I wasn't exactly too friendly last time I was here.
It's Tarkadon. I served as an acolyte here at the temple, under Karast until recently.
This will be difficult to hear. I just want you to know that going in. We don't know where Ingvaraad is, not because we don't know where she left or when, or that she slipped away from us. We don't know where she is because she's not in this same world anymore.
Was it æther? Has she become a broken?
No, no. He'll kind of like laugh at the thought of that even being possible.
Yeah, he seems
No,
very
she
relieved.
She would never.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have let her. I'll say, like, knowing what that path is like, with probably a bit more seriousness in his eyes than he means to. There was a darkness that haunted one of us, a dear friend of Ingvaraad's and of ours, who travels with us. And that darkness came to claim them, take them away. There's nothing we could do to stop it, but we could bargain with it. To offer another person in place of the one that the darkness came to take. And Ingvaraad, with great love for this person, the knowledge of what she had to do to keep the rest of us safe from something so evil, offered to go. And the thing took her. We don't know where. We don't know where she is or what state that she's in. But we're going to try to find her and someday bring her back. That's why we don't know where she is.
I don't understand exactly what you all are involved in, but if Ingvaraad decided to give herself up, then I know that it would have been a worthy cause.
And Darren will just nod with that in agreement.
I hope that you find her, though.
I do too.
If you do, would you please tell her that I wait for her?
Darren will kind of clasp this person on the shoulder and like try not to crack a smile at like now how many people this is that have been like tied up into this one person. But he'll manage his best not to like show that to this person who's like clearly grieving over it. And just look him in the eyes. I will. If we find her, wherever she is, there'll be a lot to tell her, but I'll do my best to remember. After what I did to this place before, it's the least I can do to try to make up for it.
Satisfied is definitely not what his demeanor portrays at this moment, but he seems, for the moment, to at least accept this as the best that he's going to get. And he thanks you. It's good to at least know. And he kind of nods and then goes back to his duties around the temple. About that time, the other three from your group return to the temple. And as the three of you made your way back through town, you could hear that the rumor mill had already spun up and was in full force about there being an Ashandari that was going to be taking place, and that it would take place where it always does, at the sacred site known as the Orchard of Wisdom. And it's going to be presided over by Hasran Tamareth, the law speaker of the Hand of Taarlok Valley. So, you have some moments to yourselves before this moot, this Ashandari is kind of called to order. And you are informed, at least Bastaarad and Haroon, the two of you at least have been asked to basically testify as to some of the happenings, because the people of this town know you by name and face, reputation, that kind of thing. So they're going to expect for you to speak at this Witten. So you have a few moments before that kind of gets into full swing. Is there anything that you guys would like to discuss, talk about, do before that happens?
How long were we talking to Grandpa?
In total, it was probably close to half an hour.
Okay.
Can I just get a quick out of character, just a quick like what was like the basic rundown? It's been a month or two since we actually discovered this, of like how much evidence was there actually against this guy? Like,
Perfect.
because
Okay.
I want to know how careful I should be in when I speak.
Right. So the first bit of evidence that kind of came to light was when Ingvaraad noticed that the Throes of Sunset were carrying a type of dwarven coin known as Surfric coins. And because they had like a slight misprint to them, they were basically recalled, but several runs had already been made, and the dwarven king kind of recalled those, but a large portion of them went missing, were never found. They've apparently made their way inland, away from the edge horizon, and the Throes of Sunset had a number of them on them. As it turns out, it was discovered that your boy Karast had no small amount himself stored away in a chest in his room. And furthermore, all of the evidence that you found of Ebisam being performed on Belorion. Ebisam is like a sacrilegious rite that is only known to the Bonekin. And somebody was performing this in an elven city, miles and miles away from any Bonekin establishment. So, it seems, you have kind of pieced together at least, that Karast was either helping them by performing Ebisam, or he taught them how to do it.
Okay, that combined with his coming out of delirium, I fucked up sort of confession seems to be enough for me. All right.
Anyone else? No? Okay. So, let's go ahead and do our break now. It's about the time that we would normally take it. We got a little bit of a later start, but we'll go ahead and take that now, and we'll handle the rest of this whenever we come back. So thank you everyone who happens to be tuning in this evening, whether you're watching live with us along with us, or you are tuning in the future. I appreciate it very, very much. These players are doing a fantastic job so far, as I knew they would. I love getting these characters put into emotional spots and uncovering kind of these juicy moments with them. It's a lot of fun. So very excited to get to the second half of what I have planned tonight. Sit tight, because we will be right back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back from our break. Thank you so much for catching this with us. Very excited to get back into this episode and kind of round it out. This campaign is working towards its end, and I'm very excited about that. There's been a lot of loose threads kind of flying around everywhere, some of which have kind of been worked back in, but I'm excited to resolve a lot of the things that have been going on in the story and see where it takes our characters. So, without further ado, if you all are ready, we can jump back in. Excellent. Okay. So, before long, I just lost the word. Ashendari is called for. And kind of as a parade, you are all taken to a nearby place that is referred to as the Orchard of Wisdom. This is a collection of Colossiah, at least the skulls of Colossiah. There's close to 100 of them in this forest that is cradled within the Valley of Taarlok, the Hand of Taarlok Valley. And each one of these skulls has a very old, very wide-branched tree that grows up and out of the skull, its roots falling about them almost like hair. Nobody knows these skulls, these Colossiah, by individual names. They are simply referred to as a part of the Orchard of Wisdom. And the belief, at least amongst the Bonekin, is that the wisdom of these Colossiah is what grew these trees, that straight from their minds, these plants grew up and bear fruit. And so it is here that the Ashendaris are carried out, under the wisdom and the guidance of these Colossiah. So,
Bastaarad would, as we're kind of parading our group towards them, explain this sort of traditional Bonekin history or belief in these things, and he'll then kind of turn to them at the end of that and say, of course, I also heard other cultures believe these are the fallen from the great Colossiah War, the graveyard of soldiers, and the trees were fertilized with the Colossiah blood that soaked these fields eons ago. Be wary of what you say here. The gods are always listening, even after death.
the entire villages of Akun and what was remaining of the village of Taarlok have now gathered here, kind of forming a circle, almost just kind of knowing where they need to stand to leave enough room for the proceedings that are about to happen as a part of this Ashendari. As it was foretold, there will be a law speaker present. That's the way that these things happen. They can only proceed in the presence of a law speaker. And before things are handed over to Hasran Tamarith, who will be the presiding law speaker, the chiefess of these two peoples steps forward and addresses the gathering. She is an accomplished warrior. She's actually traveled and seen much of the world of Momentum and returned within the last year or two to serve as chiefess. Her name is Ashatam Sar. She steps forward, and you can see that she's giving the moment a lot of weight. She waits for the murmurs to kind of die down, and then she says, "People of Akun and Taarlok, we have gathered here in the Orchard of Wisdom to carry out an Ashendari for High Priest Karast. He is a leader of our people, and I know many of you who were brought into this world by his hands. The crimes he stands accused of are dire. We will listen to the laws spoken by Hasran Tamareth, and we will all together reach a decision as to what needs to be done. But I implore you, we must think with our heads and not with our hearts. The law and justice must prevail here today. And there's kind of a mixed reaction from the crowd. Some people seem to approve of what she has said, others not as much. She steps back, becoming another part of the crowd to kind of watch this proceeding. And stepping forward is the law speaker. She's younger than the chiefess, but carries a different kind of clout than the chiefess. The chiefess is big, broad of shoulder, strong of arm. It's very, very obvious that she has a warrior's gait and stance. And this woman, the Hasran, is smaller for a bonekin and seems to have power that resonates from a different source. She seems to be very in tune with nature and the orchard in particular. She steps forward, all of the various kind of gold jewelry that decorates her kind of jingling as she steps forward. And she looks over the crowd for a very long moment. And then asks for Karast to be brought forward. There are a few guards that kind of flank the Elder Bonekin and bring him out into the circle that has been formed kind of at the middle of this crowd. He is still fairly frail. He is an elderly Bonekin, but he seems much rejuvenated from Kotvarad's magics. When he gets to the center, he stands, his arms bound in front of him, and looks at the ground, but says nothing. The Hasran squares up with him, and she says, "High Priest Karast, you stand accused of teaching and performing the sacrilegious rite of Ebesam. This is a crime of our people, going back to the time before the laws were written. It is believed that you knew this to be the case, and that you did it despite this fact. If that is true, and you are found guilty, the punishment will be death. She then turns towards where the five of you are gathered together. And she says, I have been told that there are those who will offer proof of your treason. If there are those who would give voice to these claims, please step forward now and speak.
Though it pains me to do so, I must speak up. I have knowledge of his crimes, and honesty must out. The truth must out. And he'll wait for her acknowledgement.
She looks to you, Bastaarad, and then kind of gestures with her hand, almost like inviting you to step into the circle.
We encountered many who considered them members of the Throes of Sunset, a group which had been performing Abyssam in elven cities. It must have been taught to them by Bonekin. We thought little of this until we realized that the Surfric coins that those who had plagued us had carried, the Throes of Sunset, were also held in great number by Karast. When awoken from his induced meditation, he admitted that he had performed a terrible act.
Are there any who can collaborate this story?
Bastaarad starts shooting the rest of his companions a little bit of what guys, don't make me look like a liar up here, look.
I think Ingvaraad is also looking at everybody else and seeing nobody else speak up will step forward and looking up at these two powerful Bonekin women. She sort of tries to hold herself just a little bit taller, a little bit more sure of herself. And maybe starts off just a little bit with a little bit of a voice crack, but it is as Bastaarad has said. I too witnessed the confession of guilt when we removed him of his trance. I too have witnessed these atrocities in our travels.
We do not know you, child. What is your name?
I am called Katvarat.
There's kind of a murmur that kind of goes through the crowd. You have taken a bonekin name.
Yes. In honor of the bonekin woman who was like a mother to me. Ingvaraad.
The murmur increases through the crowd at this. And she puts her hand up, kind of quieting them. And she nods. I know of Ingvaraad. She is an honorable woman. And if she has taken you under her wing, I consider that voucher enough as to your upstanding nature. I think we could all agree, and she kind of looks and addresses the crowd, and there's a definite approval. Go ahead, Jake, sorry.
No, she's literally, Katvarat doesn't know what to say to that. And she just sort of hesitantly shakes her head in acknowledgement of their acknowledgement. I don't think she could speak at this moment. I think you would see a little bit of tears glistening at the corners of her eyes.
I have also been made aware that these coins so mentioned have been found here in Akun, in the possession of Karast. Please bring them forward. Another couple of guards carry in the chest and set it down, opening the lid. The Osran moves over to it and kind of dips down, picking up this kind of handful of these silver coins, and turns and kind of shows them to the crowd, almost like cursory, just kind of from a distance, before she drops most of them back in the chest loudly and keeps one coin. And then she kind of comes over to you, Katvarad, with the aid of this kind of very important looking staff that she carries. It's all kind of fetished with all of these hanging, these implements that definitely seem like they hold some sort of power. She rattles her way towards you and then leans down and holds this coin out so that you can clearly see it. Is this, in fact, one of the coins of your people? One that was mentioned by Bastaarad?
Yes.
And so, the rest in this chest are too?
Katvarad just nods. She's very visibly intimidated in a not in a, like, she's not scared of this woman, but this is instantly a woman that she looks up to, and to have her suddenly be so close, she's just like starstruck is the word I'm looking for, almost.
Yeah, and she carries with her a lot of power. Like I said, that's not, it's not readily apparent, but it's obvious that it's there beneath the surface. And she has this kind of almost like an intoxicating smell. This kind of mixture of herbs and incense and earthiness that kind of follows her wherever she goes. and it's almost enough to kind of make you lightheaded. She kind of turns at this confirmation and addresses the crowd, holding up the coin again as if to explain, before dropping it back into the chest. She then turns and she says, High Priest Karast, please defend your actions to us. And the crowd grows palpably silent. The elder Bonekin stands there for a long moment. And you can see his shoulders start to rise and fall a bit. It becomes very apparent that he's sobbing. I do not think that I can. Everywhere you look, our world is awash with doom and despair. We are but the last bit of candle wax before the wick burns out. I have no hope to give to others, and I keep none for myself. The Colossiahs have forsaken us. At this, there is an eruption in the crowd. To have a high priest of the Bonekin say this aloud is a massive point.
Bastaarad takes a deep breath and looks towards the lost speaker and says, Lost speaker, I beg your permission to address the crowd.
When it's clear that Karast is done attempting to plead his case, she then will give you a nod to continue.
He takes a deep breath, knowing that he is one of the least charismatic individuals who has like no ability to talk to people. That's not his thing. But he looks at this crowd and says, what he told you is true, but it's not important. What is important is how you have taken care of each other since you have been abandoned. He did the wrong thing. He abandoned the things that made us strong, the things that kept us together. You don't need belief. You don't need the gods. You need each other. Take care of each other and don't do what this man has done. But if we kill him for it, we're just as out of hope as he has been and as the throes of sunset have been. They don't care whether we live or die. They want us to all end together. I want us to all at least try. We need to stay alive. We need to stay fighting. And the only way we do that is to take care of the people around us.
When you
Karast
Go ahead, please.
Just one last. Karast has lost his way, but he does not deserve to die for this lapse. Lock him up. Do what you must, but we cannot sink to their level.
Whenever you first brought up the fact that what he was saying was true, that we don't need to rely on the Colossiah, on the gods. Karasan, like, says something and starts into the circle as if he's going to try to stop you from speaking this way, this in this sacrilegious tone, this blasphemy. And Ashatam Sar, the chiefess, just holds her hand out like across his chest and stops him from entering the circle fully. And when you finish what you're saying, it's almost hard to even finish to hear the last of your words, because the crowd has worked itself up into such a frenzy over what you've just said. Like, this is a very you basically just went into like a Southern Baptist church and told them, hey, God ain't real. So these people are having a fit.
Just be nice to each other.
Yeah, right.
Just be nice to each other. It's fine. Be excellent to one another.
Kumbaya. So, yeah, this crowd is whipped up into a frenzy by the time that you have finished your speech, and the lawkeeper, the law speaker, has kind of stepped to the middle of this circle, and has just held her hands up, one open hand and one holding this staff, and she's just shaking this staff and causing all of the fetishes that decorate it to kind of vibrate in this din of noise. And eventually that kind of brings the crowd kind of back down to a dull roar. And she says, these crimes are very serious. What Bastaarad has told us, and those he travels with, including Katvarad, she turns and kind of acknowledges you. It would appear that Kurast is guilty. Kurast has performed or taught Ebesam. You know the punishment for this crime.
If I may.
The crowd kind of like takes an audible like gasp and then turns. And she turns to look at you.
I am Harun Ashad. Many of you know me. For not long ago, I stood where Kurast now stands, in judgment before your people for the crimes that I had performed. And it was this man, Kurast, who defended me, who called for leniency, for forgiveness. And through his teachings, I swore an oath to change my ways. And with those teachings, I returned to my people, bestowing the things that I had learned with my time here. The crimes against Kurast are heavy. Many would believe unforgivable. A true sin, not only against your people, but the gods themselves. Turning and looking at Kurast, trying to meet his gaze. I do not know who this is that stands before me now. This is not the man that I knew. This is not the man who showed me a better path. I would know, Karast. What turned you away?
The crowd kind of once again falls silent and turns their attention to the elder Bonekin. He has a difficult time meeting your gaze, Harun. Lost so many. So many have died in horrible ways. The elves, humans, the dwarves, the bonekin. We're all tearing ourselves apart. Scrapping for the last remnants of a world that no longer wants us here. We have outlived our world. He is dying.
I understand. It is true. As you have taught me, that everything is a circle. But in that regard, yes, this world is ending, but it is not an end, but a new beginning. And it is up to us to usher in that new beginning, to take what we have learned from this chapter of our lives and ensure that the generation that comes after us is all the better for it. I'm going to activate my Emissary of Peace, granting me +5 bonus to Charisma Persuasion as I turn back to the crowd and the law speaker. We all lose our way at times. We all, looking to the crowd, have questioned our belief and our faith in dire times. Sure, we pray. But is there anyone here who can say that they had not at one point had doubt in their heart during hardship, had questioned when they have lost? Karast feels the pain not only for himself and his people, but for all people of this world. And it weighs heavy. If you are true believers and you truly walk the path, then he is not lost. He, like unto myself, can be redeemed, can be found. I asked, when you cast your judgment, that you do so with this in mind.
Alan, if you would please, go ahead and roll that persuasion. And because you also had the help of Bastaarad, you may do so at advantage.
All right, I rolled a 15 and an 18, so I'm going to take that 18. And I'll apply my +5 there.
All right. Haroon finishes speaking, and the crowd has fallen quiet, silent at this point, just listening with rapt attention at what he is saying. And apparently what he has said is true, that Haroon knows these people to some degree, and they seem to know him and respect what he has said. The law speaker turns to you, Haroon, and just gives you like a slight nod as if to say, thank you. You can step back now, kind of thing. And she then turns to the group and says, "You have heard the charges and the crimes that are leveled against High Priest Kurast. You have seen the evidence for yourselves and heard the testimonies. It is now time for you to cast your vote as to what will be done for Kurast. If you choose to spare him, he will be stripped of his titles, but he may remain a part of this village. If he is found to be guilty, he will be put to death by the Rasenkata. Bastaarad, you know that the Rasenkata is a ritualistic sacrifice that is sometimes offered to appease the gods when they are angry. A large basket is then brought forward, and one by one, the entirety of these villages step forward and pick from a collection of dark stones or light stones and cast them into the basket. Light for his release, for his forgiveness, and dark for his condemnation. The five of you, being present, being named, are also expected to cast a vote. So, each of you, please, if you would, let me know whether you cast a light stone or a dark stone. Yeah, you can let me know privately if you wish. Yes, Austin, to answer your question, Dulkari had Ebasam perform. The Broken, the Bonekin who kind of become consumed by their ether usage and become a different version of themselves. They're kind of treated as, for all intents and purposes, being dead to those that are still living. They frequently perform Ebasam on themselves and on each other. So it wouldn't be uncommon to find that on a Broken. Okay, I have 2 in. I suppose, for all intents and purposes, if you want to, you could abstain. Okay. Darian, are you casting a stone? I just now realized that Jeff is frozen. He's so intense, usually. Still, like a grasshopper. I just now realized he's frozen. Alright then. So, hopefully, he comes back. Check the chat, see if he... Nope, I don't see anything from him. Okay. The stones are cast. And... Oops. And then tallied. I'll give him just a minute to see if he comes back. And then, if not, I'll rearrange the windows. Okay. There he is. And in the right spot. Sweet. Is Darian casting a stone? Oh,
Yeah,
you may not have
I
heard.
sent it to you. Yeah,
did you?
no, I heard everything. Yeah,
Okay, good.
froze for a second, but I could still hear what was going on.
Okay,
I should have PM'd it to you.
Yeah, I just got it. Cool. They're tallied. And it seems as though, not by much, perhaps even by the votes casted by the members of your party, that he is found to be not guilty. And he will be set free to live out the rest of his natural life here in Akun, though he will no longer be high priest of the temple. As the Ashendari is kind of breaking apart and the villagers are returning, discussing heavily the unfolding of these events, the outcome of this Ashendari, and their opinions, some of them loudly, about Karast. The law speaker, Hasran Tamareth, approaches the five of you collectively, kind of gathering you together. When the five of you are kind of gathered around, kind of out of earshot of most of the rest of the Bonekin, she says, "It would appear that you all have very intimate knowledge of this situation, of what has been going on. What are you planning on doing now? How are you planning to stop what Karast has done?"
Bastaarad will kind of look at the others, just making sure that no one's giving him a very, very specific, like, kind of symbol. Otherwise, he's just going to turn, like, we're planning on going to hell. We're going to the down under. We're going to stop the throes of sunset. We know where they're headed, generally, and we're fairly close behind. This detour seemed necessary, but as soon as we finish here, we'll be moving on further towards the edge.
And the rumors, are they to be believed? Is Belorion, is he gone?
For now. We'll see what we can get back.
And that is why the long night has persisted. Why the sun has not returned.
I believe so.
Well then, the fates of all of us do rest in your hands, it would seem. She turns and approaches a low-hanging branch of this tree and kind of hooks her staff over it and kind of lowers it down and reaches into the boughs of the tree, and she returns to you with 5 fruit. Each one of them is kind of a yellowish orange color and about the size of a large olive. She gives each one of you a single one of these and explains that these are called æther fruit. It means admonition in our language. You should take these with you when you journey below. So each one of you now has, I'm putting it here in the chat, a single æther fruit. These will show your eyes the truth. Use it when you need it. The place below is not for the faint of heart or the weak of mind.
Bastaarad will bow deeply and say, I thank you for the honor, lost speaker.
The blessings of this orchard go with you, Bastaarad, and you, all of you. Take care. We'll need it. With that, you are allowed to go back to the village to rest up more if you'd like. Perhaps set out again back to the ship, maybe even the next day.
Before we go back
go
to
ahead.
the ship, the only thing Bastaarad wants to do is talk to Kazaran one more time. But
Absolutely.
other than that, he's pretty. And actually, I think I did say I told Tarkadan that I was going to come, like I was going to tell him once, like talk to him once I talked to her father.
Right.
Like, I just didn't want to tell him first. So, like, I know he already
Absolutely.
knows, but Bastaarad doesn't know that he already knows. So, just saying.
Yeah, he was just being a very impatient person. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would imagine, because it's been long enough that you guys are probably going to want to stay at least the evening before heading back. It's a long enough walk that while it's long night and all of that already, it would be a bit of a march after the day that you guys have already had at this point. So there's plenty of time in the evening for Bastaarad to kind of sequester, both of them independently if you'd like to have conversations.
Yeah, the Tarkadan one doesn't actually have to like be an on-screen one, just
Sure.
like an RP one. Just that he approaches him just to like let him know, like, okay, I've talked to her father now. Oh, you already know. Okay, Darian told you. Cool.
Perfect.
But yeah, so then he'd like to go to Kazaran, and once he's in his longhouse, say, I have a favor to ask of you. You are possibly my oldest friend. I would like if you could keep an eye on Bastaarad. He's a strong and proud man, but he's lost much, and I don't think he'll reach out if he needs guidance. I would appreciate if you would offer it unbidden. I know what a task that is, considering the man Bastaarad is, and what a man like him does with unwanted advice. But I ask it of you anyway, because you are a man I trust.
He nods. He says, I will look in on him, Bastaarad, because you have asked it of me, and because it will be part of my duties, as I am to become the High Priest here.
Bastrad will smile at that and say, there's no one better suited.
Shall see. I have concerns with the way things happened today, with the things that were said. I have a favor to ask of you in return, Bastaarad.
Of course.
I know that your faith has been wounded, and the love for the Colossiahs has diminished in your heart from when we were younger. The task that you are undertaking, going into the Down Under, he reaches up and unaffixes a talisman that he wears around his neck. A holy symbol that he wears. A sign of Taarlok, the god of toil, and of the stars. And he presents it to you, Bastaarad. Please wear this. Take everything you can with you to that horrible place.
Kazran, I am honored
Please.
by this, and I must tell you, I think you're mistaken. I don't think you understand what I believe now. I may have lost my belief that the gods are still with us, but I've not lost any of my love for them. It is because I love them and I care about them that I believe I owe them honesty. I owe them the honesty to look them in the eye and say, you are gone, and I grieve you. And I will take that love for them into the Down Under. And I will bring back everything I can of them to honor them further here, to honor and respect them, because I do believe that they were once something great, and they are still something important, whether or not they live. I thank you for this gift. I will take it with me, because I do love the Colossiah. This is where I was born, in the cradle of Taarlok, the greatest god of all. Of course, I have love for them. Thank you, Kazran. I hope I shall return. But if I don't, I just want you to know that you were the closest thing I had to a brother or a father. I love and respect you.
He presses the device into your hand and kind of closes your fingers around it, and then kind of pushes it closer to your chest, and then lowers his own kind of forehead and brow until it touches yours, your horns kind of clattering together for a moment. And he says, I hope that you do return, Bastaarad. Know that my prayers and my hopes are with you. Okay.
And with that, Bastrad will just nod and turn. Like that was kind of he doesn't want to ruin the moment with anything further.
think Haroon would visit Karast before leaving.
Yeah, you find him. He's kind of collecting his meager belongings to basically find a new home, a new place to live outside of the temple. He sees you enter. The sullenness of his demeanor has not changed at all. It doesn't look like this verdict is the outcome that he wanted. He sees you enter and he raises his eyes just a bit. Hello, Haroon.
Karast. I suspect that you perhaps were looking for a different outcome than what transpired today.
As you spoke, you do know me.
I know you because at one time I was where you are. I felt the unbearable guilt of my actions, the consequences weighing heavy upon my mind, my heart, my soul. And for a very long time, I too sought, or at least thought, that the only way it would end is if, well, that if I came to an end. Perhaps you thought that that was a fitting punishment for your actions.
In part, yes. But it is more than that, Haroon. I don't want to live in this world any longer. It has grown dark and cold and cruel. Desperate. Everywhere I look, all I can see is what used to be. Ghosts, empty spaces all around me.
It is true. The world is full of darkness, sadness, sorrow, memories that we would all wish to forget. I don't think there's anyone who does not feel that pain. And being a leader of people is hard. Having others look up to you to be their pillar, their light in the darkness, their North Star. But there is still hope, Karast. There is still light in the world. Proof of it is right there, right outside this very wall. And that young girl, following the teachings of Ingvaraad, in which you instilled into her, into Bastaarad, into Darren, that hope, that light still burns bright. I must go. We are heading into the darkest depths. But with us, we bring hope. We will bring the light. But before I go, I felt I should return something to you. And perhaps, like I did, you will find your way back. And Haroon would set on the desk or table or whatever it may be. He would set down the teachings, more or less kind of the bone-kin Bible, if you will. The very same holy book that Karas had given him when he was here.
He looks down at this presentation, this gift that you've made to him, and he reaches out and kind of strokes the cover with like his hand, almost like seeing an old friend or something from a long forgotten past. If you take hope, Bastaarad, and take what is left of mine with you. I hold none for myself. And he pushes the book away.
I think Haroon would just turn from him and walk, but leaves the book.
Excellent. Okay. Is there anything that any of you wish to do before kind of turning in for the night? Taking one more rest before you perhaps head back to the ship before leaving this village?
How far away are the villages of Taarlok and Akun from each other?
I would say maybe probably like a 3 or 4 day walk. If you rode.
Okay, several days. Okay.
Yeah, if you rode, it would probably be a day or two at the most.
All right. Yeah, too far. Too far.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyone else have anything they want to? No? Okay, cool. So, you turn in for the evening. There is like a communal meal that's held in the chiefess's longhouse. It's kind of customary whenever there is an Ashendari for that to happen. It's celebratory is probably not quite the right word. It has a vague celebratory nature to it, but it is still kind of underscored by this kind of sadness that this has happened, that this high priest has committed this crime. But you take your meal, and eventually you turn in.
Was he at the meal? Like, was it everybody? Like, he's in the society? Like, did he come? I'm guessing he wouldn't come. Like, he doesn't seem like he'd be down for a party.
It's probably not unusual.
Really
yeah, it's probably not unusual for an accused to be included, but I don't think he would have. I think you're right. Okay. So you turn in for the evening, and at some point, Bastaarad, you awaken, and you find yourself out in open air, looking up at a dark sky with dim stars. You see, by the starlight, ahead of you, Taarlok himself, massive and slumped over a crumbling mountain. From his eye sockets, maggots the size of longships wriggle their way from his face and down the mountain. And as they join you in the field that you stand in. They become bonekin, and they begin to toil in the earth around you. It is not long before you realize these other bonekin are not other bonekin. The bonekin toiling alongside you are you. Each of you. In this scene, I would like for you to play your version of Bastaarad. Each of you realizes, as you toil in this earth and you dig, you realize that you are shackled and that your chains disappear into the earth that you now work as if roots.
And just for clarity, it's we are playing these versions of him in his dream, but this is not us also having the same dream, correct? Okay. I would imagine that there's this version of Bastaarad who is extremely disciplined. So like I almost imagine that, you know, maybe each of us is either whether it's an alternate timeline or it's pieces of the personality, like a sort of like, you know, different aspects split into different, you know, manifestations. But I imagine that the sort of jovial nature isn't there at all, and it's this calculated, sort of like economical killing machine, sort of like the part of Bastaarad that made him want to become what he is without the warmth and the laughing and all that stuff. It's like the core of what is behind a punch or the swing of a weapon. And so it's just this grim sort of Bastaarad.
I imagine a Bastaarad who, as he toils, is distracted from working the earth as he looks down at his hands, toiling with the tools, the hose and the rake, and the shovel. I look down at my hands and they are cracking. They're splitting. And a violent red light spills out from them. And as the cracks grow, there's a moment of dissonance. And for a split second, a version of Bastaarad manifests of pure anger. And I reach down and grab a handful of the tilled earth, digging right next to where that chain disappears down into the earth. Spit into the earth and create a mud, rubbing it in and filling those cracks quickly and hiding and suppressing that rage. And looking side to side to make sure nobody else saw. And then looking down, and the clay has formed as part of my hands once again. They're whole. And I begin toiling. And I begin to feel the hands crack again. And this plays out over and over again.
One of the times that it plays out, there's another version of Bastaarad nearby who's working resolutely, but with a slight bit of despair in his eyes at the endlessness of it, the work that continues to go, never ending. And he looks up at the form of the god of the Colossiah over the mountain. And for a moment, that similar red fury begins to boil. But then Bastaarad, this version of him, looks around and he sees this other version who is struggling worse than he is. And he sets his tool down and he goes over to this other form of Bastaarad, who's trying once again desperately to fill these cracks of rage with the earth. And this version of Bastaarad will put a hand on the shoulder of the other, look him in the eyes, and though no words are exchanged in this strange world, will give him a nod and know that even though the toil must continue, that it never ends, that no one toils alone. And he will clasp his hands over yours and try to fill the cracks, not with the earth that continues to break them, but with the bond of someone trying to help.
See Bastaarad alone and in kind of like this desolate feel, like it's just dry. The earth is dry. Nothing is growing here. It's not quite a desert. It's just that the ground is so just hard. It's cracked, thirsty. And we even see like the clouds are dark, overcast. Thunder and lightning is rippling, but no rain is coming. And we see Bastaarad. He's got a pickaxe or some other sort of tool to work the earth. And he hits the ground. And every time he hits the ground, he has some sort of flashback, some sort of dark memory from his past. Maybe he was drinking too much. He hated his lot in life. He never got what he wanted. He resented the life that he had. Every time he strikes the earth, we get a flash of that pain, that welling up of anger and hate and spite. But the earth never cracks under each strike. He falls to his knees, screaming out into the ether, into the open air. The sky thunders in response. And then we get a glimpse. Again, another flash, but at this time, we get a glimpse of Ingvaraad. He picks up the axe and slams it into the earth. He gets a picture of Vidaris. Slaps the axe into the earth. Gets a memory of his elven friend. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but who passed at the beginning of this journey. Kalp, yes. Gets an image of Kalp. And then of Darren, Kavarad, Haroon. And before you know it, the sky opens and the rain falls, covering him and the earth as tears stream down his face. And he sits there for a moment, just letting this rain wash over him. And then when he opens his eyes, the sky is clear. And the earth, no longer thirsty, we start to see the budding of new life.
One final vision flashes of these Bastaarads, and he's standing surrounded by rows and rows of identical Bastaarads, all swinging and striking in unison. And he realizes at that moment that the chain on his ankle has gone slack, and he starts to move forward just a bit and pull away from these roots, and this chain comes with him, and it's still connected, but it seems to go slack even more as he pulls away further. And as he looks up from this chain, he realizes that these other chain Bastaarads, they're not Bastaarad anymore. There's Catharad, there's Ingvaraad, there's Darian, there's Haroon, there's Sabanos even. There's all of the people that he's ever considered friends or cared about. And he starts to scream out to them. He starts to scream out their names one by one, but they don't seem to hear him. It seems like all these people around, they can't tell that he's there. He gets closer and closer as this chain keeps slacking, and he pulls further, and he eventually gets close enough that he starts to touch one, and it's Ingvaraad, and she starts to kind of turn her head and slow her toil for just a moment. And then he feels the chain start to pull back and tighten on his leg, and he's holding on, but he's pulled back until he can't hold on any longer. And she very slowly turns back and continues toiling into the dried dirt. And he starts slowly being pulled back and realizes that some of these other toilers are they're looking just briefly as he passes, but then as soon as he gets pulled back past them, they go back to their work, and he finds himself back at the point where he began. And he just looks down and begins to toil himself.
And it's as you've been pulled back to this place, Bastaarad, that you now dig and toil, that you realize you are uncovering the source of this chain. You're following it into the earth. You dig deeper and deeper, and you finally realize that the others around you have taken notice of what you're doing. They too are now focusing their toil on this chain that holds them to the earth. You all begin to dig down and pull on these chains, and in great unison, the earth begins to fall away. It falls away until you can see a great distance beneath you. And all of these chains tether together at a mountain of fire and ash. The world then turns upside down, and you begin to fall. And suddenly, you are awoken in your bed where you were sleeping at the temple, in a cold sweat. It takes a moment, but you realize in the corner of the room, not far away from you, there is a chain hanging, and it is moving. It has been disturbed, and it is swinging back and forth.
Immediately put on edge by this, Bastaarad will, as groggy as he is, try to scan the room, see if there's anyone else that might have moved this thing.
You turn your head to and from to and fro throughout the room, but your eyes keep coming back to that chain. And then you realize that what's drawing your attention is not actually this chain. It's the shadows beyond it. The shadow there is deeper than the rest of the shadows of the room. It is unnaturally black. The moment that you come to this realization and you peer harder into that shadow, it very quickly moves and melts away into thin air. That is where we're going to end our session. So, thank you everyone so much. This was an incredible episode. I was so looking forward to getting through all of the stuff that was coming tonight, and I was not disappointed in the least. So thank you. I'm going to pass it over to my players so that they can do their outros. Once again, touch on anything that they would like to plug, and then we will call it an evening. So we'll go in reverse order. First up, Jeff.
So the first thing that I want to plug before I get to anything else is that Jeremy is one of the best game masters that I know, as evidenced by everything that we just saw. That was fantastic. Absolutely amazing. The whole session, and especially that ending scene, just ridiculous. And it reminds me of why I sit in the player seat and let you do what you do. Yeah, this game is just one of the best games. And the fact that we're nearing
There's an irony in that he cut off the ending of what he was going to say. Oh, you're back.
Sorry, am I
You're back. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Perfect.
We literally
timing.
missed the very ending of what you were going to say.
Really nailed it. I was just going to say, it's the fact that we're nearing towards an ending is simultaneously extremely gratifying, because this game has been absolutely amazing and deserves to be seen through to the very end, and is like heartbreaking that it's going to be over, because these like characters and these stories are so fantastic. But yeah, I could go on about how great this game is and how great Jeremy runs it all night. So I'll spare the gory details of it. I'm Jeff. If you want to find the videos that I do, you can check me out at Tabletop Terrors alongside Tim, who will talk in a little bit. Yeah, this game is great.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that a lot, man. Sincerely. Yeah, I'm happy to have you here, man. All right, next up we have Alan.
So, I mean, another fantastic session. So, I mean, just the storytelling, the drama, the imagery. Jeremy, I mean, the amount of work that you put into your craft, even coming across a digital table, when I know that you have that you have a passion for physical craft as well, but just in the art and the time that you put into describing the environment, the amount of flavor that you give your NPCs and the scenery, it's just phenomenal. So I cannot signal boost this anymore, that if you're not subscribe. If not for this game, there are other games on this channel that Jeremy runs, and so many future potential that's out there, that's coming, I know for sure, from Jeremy. Outside of that, yeah, and everybody here, as far as players go, are phenomenal, creative, talented people as well in their own right. So make sure to go and follow them on the social media and look into Mini Terrain Domain, look into Tabletop Terrors, and Counterbalance and everything. I am Alan. You can find me at CFTRPG. And thank you again. Thank you for having me here, and such a wonderful time playing with all of you guys. So
Likewise, I appreciate that a ton, Alan. Thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, and this game wouldn't be anywhere near as good as it is if it weren't for collection of players that have been attached to it. You guys are phenomenal. Everything that I give you, you guys chew up and spit right back out, and it's better for it. Okay, next up we have Tim.
So I just want to say that that's probably one of the coolest in-game moments I've ever been a part of, and like what a really cool way to let the other players put such weight onto another character and focus on that character. So it was really, really smart. So the thing that I want to say is that, like, Jeremy, seriously, every time I either watch one of your games or play in one of your games, I learn something new about game mastering, like for real. So people are like, I just want to learn how to be a game master. If they just mimic what you do, I know that's like saying, if you just play like Jimi Hendrix, you'll be a good guitarist. But if they just mimic some of the frameworks that you do, like I'm absolutely going to crib that everyone plays the same character in some sort of a dream or hallucination thing. Like that's going in the Rolodex. Because if you watch or play in a Jeremy game, you're like, oh, that's one step further than I would have thought of. And like Alan said, the amount of work that you put in is the part that I need to get better at. Just the details. I am going to be bothering you so much with questions. Yeah, this is just how you run a campaign, in my opinion. So, and even though I might look tired, I'm great. I'm actually good to go. I just definitely, fell into a lull while Alan's sweet dulcet tones started talking. But I'm totally great. I could go another hour in a campaign like this. There's one thing that I will boost, and it's this. There's something free that if you download it, it actually helps us, which is on Drive-Thru RPG, there's a character creation kit for Dragon Grin, and it's called Character Creation Kit: A Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin. If you have a Drive-Thru RPG account, it's pay what you want. Don't pay for it. Just get it for free. The more downloads that it gets, the more visibility that it gets, and then they promote it. And I want more people to play in Dragon Grin for free. So if you have a Drive-Thru RPG account and would be willing to take the time to just download it, add it to your library, it would be helping me out, and Absolute Tabletop out. So that would be the one thing I would promote.
I can't second that enough. Dragon Grin is a fantastic product. It's a really awesome setting, and I only know the barest little bit about it, and I love everything that I've read about it. And Absolute Tabletop is a phenomenal group, not only as a group of collective of people on Facebook and the community, but also just the four of you that run this company. You guys have done a phenomenal job ever since it came out, and that's why I choose it as my home on the internet, where to find players, because you guys gather a phenomenal group of people around you, leading by example, and your products are amazing. So absolutely do go check that out. Again, it's free. What have you got to lose? And you know that your support is going to a fantastic company and a fantastic group of people. So I definitely recommend that you do that. And thank you again, Tim. I don't know what to say, but what I haven't already said. You guys are incredibly kind. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just be ready for me to start picking your brain about how you structure campaigns and how you plot and stuff, because I want to know all the juicy secrets.
Yeah, man, I welcome it. I love talking shop. I love talking about D&D and GMing and stuff. So, yeah, I'm there when you need me. Okay, next up we have Austin.
Okay, so I have way too many things to say, and I don't know how I'm going to fit this much backslappery into a short amount of time. But I want to start by saying the end of that session felt like a big, warm, fuzzy RPG hug, and I loved it. I feel so seen. It was amazing. Also, nobody does it better than Jeremy. Holy shit, every time. I didn't even realize that I forgot to grab dice until an hour and 15 minutes into the session. And I could not be happier about that. I, again, literally do not remember the last time I rolled dice in this game. And it is the best campaign I've ever played D&D in. Like, oh boy, I had a bunch of other things, but I guess I'll just skip to that was so great. Jeremy, holy shit, every time. Like, I do not understand how you do it. It is so good. I love every game that I have ever been in from you. And if you ever need an extra player, let me know because I am there in a second. Just the whole thing was so much fun. And also, like, there were just like parts of it that it was like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting to hear this. It's so good. Like the maggot, when you got to the maggots the size of long ships, I was like, oh, my heart. It made me so happy. It made me so happy. You have no idea. Anyway, so great time. Watch more of Jeremy's games. Also, he's right. AbTab, that's the place I send people when they ask me, like, hey, if they're interested in video games, RPGs. If they're interested in tabletop RPGs, like I have a coworker who is just like, oh yeah, I just bought my first like player's handbook, and I was like, dude, I have the place for you. I know you're not going to find a game right now because of COVID. You're going to find a million games on here, and they're going to be the best games. Like, I'm blown away all the time with like, I get to play with these people. Like, I can't run this shit, but like, I got to play with these people that can run this shit. So anyway, also, I'm gonna buy the Dragon Grin characters sheet, and I'm not gonna just get it for free. I'm gonna pay 69 cents for it. Ayo, nice. All right, I think that's it. I'm a little loopy because it's late-ish. Go on. Back to you, Jeremy.
Says the guy from the Pacific Northwest.
Shh. It's 8:45, and I'm old, young.
He's like, the sun's about to go down, guys. I'm gonna miss all the good prime rib at Golden Corral. Can we?
I gotta sit down and watch Golden Girls.
We watch Frasier here in
Yeah.
in Washington.
Local boy,
Thank
I
you
see.
very much. Yeah.
Tim and I are all the way on the East Coast going, it's almost midnight, guys. I just happened to look at Tim as he was going like this.
Yeah, poor dude.
He was
Okay,
giving him a
maybe
hard
it's
time in
less-
the chat.
Maybe it's less sleepiness than drinking, but whatever.
I just wanted to tell you what they used to make us do in the Army. If you were falling asleep, you had to actually stand up and go, "Get off of me! Get off of me!" Because you had to chase away the sleep monster.
Oh my god.
That's not an exaggeration. Oh, I guess it's my turn.
Yes, absolutely. Austin, thank you so much again. I appreciate it very, very much, man. And yeah, that dream sequence, whenever you gave me that nightmare, I was like, I can work with this. So
It was just so amazing to see it, like, a year and a half, 2 years later. Like, I was like, oh, hey, parts of that sound familiar. Like, I feel like that was in my questionnaire.
Yep.
I feel like
Surprise!
I gave him parts of that. Like, yeah.
I feel like I need to go back and look at my questionnaire again. See what bullets I armed Jeremy.
He literally warned me before like 2 sessions ago, like, hey, you might want to check your questionnaire, just like double check your backstory. And I was like, oh shit. All right, shit's about to get like real, and I'm gonna have to like be there like fully.
You've done a phenomenal job, man. Thank you. And yeah, Jake, you're next. So we're heading into dwarven territory.
I'm looking to see if there's any room to slap your back after everybody else has done so. But this is one of those campaigns that we've said it time and again, that I think we're all in agreement on this, that I could show up at the beginning of this game and sit here and not ever have Ingvaraad be in a scene and be content to be a part of this game. I've never played in a game where I'm so content to just watch the spotlight on other people for such prolonged periods of time. It's just absolutely incredible to see how you have woven elements of our backstory that you so meticulously created into your world that 2 years ago, or however long ago it was like 2 years, wasn't it? That I've never had a choice to become a character class play such a pivotal part in a campaign. Just the choice of becoming a warlock, and that those choices I made have had dramatic impacts on this campaign. And I'm seeing that from these other characters as well, who they chose to be. You weave these things in, you weave our stories together, that we know the threads, but we don't know how. Not only, and I say you, it's more like you've sort of given us the colors of the thread, and then you let us kind of work in and around each other to create this story, all six of us together. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, is this kind of a gaming experience. But I feel like we've all gotten the golden ticket, I guess, that this will go down. I want to go back and just see those last lines that Bastaarad was saying about there was something about in the moment I remembered it, but it was something about the gods, the Colossiahs are dead, but that's why I grieve them. That whole speech that you gave was just like, oh man, that's the part they play when you're nominated for the Emmy Award. It was absolutely incredible, and we see that session after session from each person, just incredible stuff. So yeah, this was just once again another well spent 3 hours or whatever it was, and only rolling my dice as I played with them absentmindedly. And thank God I didn't have to roll them, because they were rolling really bad tonight. Yeah, so the only thing I want to plug is I'm also going to plug Jeremy's channel real quick. If you're watching us and listening to us talk, there's no reason you haven't subscribed already. So just do it. And then come over to Mini Terrain Domain on Thursdays to watch Jeremy as part of another ensemble cast, and just do a tremendous job playing between the literal Hambone dwarf character, who uses a ham hock as an improvised weapon, to the ancestral barbarian that one of the ancestors he manifests as is his deceased daughter. It's just incredible, an honor to get to both be DM'd by and DM you. So yeah, that's my backslap. Love you, man.
And Jeremy, I want to say real quick that, you were talking about how you were going to pull out all the stops when we go into the down under, and I've never played a character this high level. And so that excites me so much, because anytime I've been in danger in the campaigns I've played in, it was always like there was a little bit of plot armor on it, because I was like level 3, and I never, so I'm really excited to have a real risk of dying, number one. Number two, have a character that doesn't have much to lose and is a little crazy in that situation. And then number three, be high enough level to actually do some epic stuff and be formidable enough. Like, it's really exciting.
Good. I can't wait. Yeah, you guys have been such fantastic sports through all of this, and I know there's been a lot of in-character grief and torment, and that is that is just kind of the nature of this game, the nature of this world, and believe it or not, you guys asked for it, literally, in the beginning of the game. So I'm glad that our story has taken that kind of a turn, but that it's still managed to be enjoyable for you guys to play through. There's a lot of people who would not take that very well. And you guys have been phenomenal at taking all of it in stride and allowing it to shape and develop your characters through this story. So I'm very, very excited to push that envelope even further, hopefully. And I can't wait to get to hell. I really can't. But first, before we do that, the dwarves, and I'm also very excited about them. Momentum is a really is a world that I'm very happy with. I'm really, really pleased with how it's turned out and how you guys have managed to change it and shape it. And I love being able to showcase parts of it, like tonight in the last session, where we've kind of really gotten to get a good idea of who the Bonekin are and what makes them the Bonekin, like how they fit into this world. So thank you so much for every single time we sit down, for your buy-in, for your investment, for taking this world so seriously and giving it your all through the characters that you guys are playing so magnificently. I couldn't ask for a better ensemble of people, including Dave and Lloyd, who were previous players in the campaign. Everybody has done such a phenomenal job. So, once again, if you have tuned in this evening to watch along with us, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. We are really close to 400 subscribers, so if you enjoyed this game, please spread it around. Go to the interweb, and tell everybody. Tell them to come here. Tell them to watch stuff, and if they like it, then they can like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. I would appreciate it immensely. But until next time, may your dice roll high, and your snacks always be within reach.